This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network and Beer Media Group. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk to different people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to episode 234 of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud Odd Pods Media Network member and charter member of the Beer Media Group. I have a good show today. The Festival of Wood and Barrel-Aged Beer is this weekend. Fobab's going to be held on the 22nd and 23rd this Friday and Saturday at the Credit Union One Arena right here in Chicago. I am so stoked about this. This is probably the highlight of my year. I love this festival. All the great beers, all barrel-aged. You can't go wrong. This year I wanted to do something a little different. Usually I talk to Ray from the Illinois Craft Brewers Guild, but I wanted to do something a little different and talk to a couple breweries to get their points of view and what they think about this great festival. So I'm going to talk to some people at Old Irving and Solemn Oath. So we'll get a little city, we'll get some suburbs action going here, and we'll learn all about Fobab from these fine gentlemen, and that's coming up. Usually try to put the show out on Thursdays now. This one I put out a day early. Just wanted to give an extra day before Fobab. Next week is Thanksgiving. So I'm not going to do a Thursday show. I'll put it out Friday, and I'm going to talk to the folks at Blue Ox Malt Company. So if you want to learn a little bit more about malt, tune into that. That'll be next Friday. I've talked about it on the show the past couple of years. If you want to hear my grandmother's stuffing story, wait until after the music. When the closing music plays at the end, if you've heard it before and you don't want to hear it again, you could just hit end. But if you do want to hear it, wait until the close, and I will give you my annual story about my grandmother and her stuffing. Since this is going to be the last time I talk to you before Thanksgiving, I hope you have a great holiday. It is my favorite holiday of the year. I'm very thankful that you listen to this, you watch the silly videos. So that's one of the reasons I'm giving thanks, in addition to my beautiful wife, my pain-in-the-ass dog, and my lovely mother. So, but thank you all very much for putting up with me on a week-to-week basis. The Festival of Wood and Barrel-Aged Beer is right around the corner. Fobab will be held on November 22nd and 23rd at the Credit Union One Arena right here in Chicago. This year on the preview, I wanted to change things up. Not that I have anything against Ray. I love Ray from the Brewers Guild. But I wanted to talk to a couple different breweries and get things from their perspective. Today, right now, I'm at Old Irving Brewing, which is at 4419 West Montrose Avenue, with Matthew Moldenhauer and Trevor Rose Hamblin from Old Irving to talk about what they're going to be serving up this year at Fobab. Gentlemen, thanks for inviting me back to the brewery.
Of course, man. Always good to have you.
Yeah, good morning. It's fun to be back.
Yeah, 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
The barrel age program here is second to none, in my opinion,
Wow,
throughout the city. I love everything you put out, from the Krampus series to other offerings. What do you have in store for Fobab this year?
Well, this year we've got 2 entries. We've been messing with a lot of our base recipe for Krampus over the last years. Lactose has kind of fallen out of favor. The original idea behind Krampus cookies was milk and cookies, so lactose made sense as a milk stout that was barrel-aged, but more and more people are starting to shy away from anything with lactose. So we've been kind of experimenting with our grain recipe, trying to still get that like unctuousness and sweetness and roundness that we love about Krampus, but sans lactose. So one of our first experiments with this was a brand new beer that we just put out called Cursed, which is one of our entries this year. Very simple base, a lot of roasted malts, a really hefty 2-row malts, some beautiful kind of caramelized malts, Carafa, Munichs, things like that. fermented with a very simple ale strain to leave a lot of body, and then a good helping of oats as well to help with that body. We then laid it down in 2 distinct barrels. You've got the 6-year Wild Turkey Booker's Bourbon and Wild Turkey Rye as well.
Yeah, I think this is a great one to start with because we are going to be serving this at Fobab. And one of the things that I love about this beer, especially as being that first foray into not having lactose, is for me is where you get the barrel characteristic starts to really shine on this one.
Now, this has been out for a little while, correct?
Yep. Yeah, and you can't actually find it anymore. We're sold out. It was done right around our 8th anniversary in September here. And aptly named, this beer caused a lot of problems being named Cursed, but I think it has a lot of help for us in the future for what it's going to be bringing, especially kind of as that first base of what we're doing with Krampus now.
Yeah, I think it's like we go on, we love to do like the fun stuff, right? We love infusing, adjuncting, doing all this other stuff. But I think as we kind of move through the processes, I'm like, what kind of flavors can we use with just natural brewing ingredients? How do we get that chocolate? How do we get kind of cherry? And we're putting all those pieces together, and we've kind of figured out. So you'll notice that this has like a lot of kind of reductive flavors like cherry and almond. Gets pretty nutty. It almost starts like edging on like sherry or, you know, something like that, like a port, some kind of fortified wine. But it's pretty cool to see just what beer barreling of some time does.
Yeah, I remember I bought this when it came out and really loved it. But now that you poured a little bit of it, you definitely do get, just out of the aroma without tasting it, you get that biscotti almond notes with the cherry. I mean, it smells really phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I think we love barrel-aged beer because it's just nonstop experimentation, and that's really where the fun part of brewing is, right? So,
yeah, and this beer is the first one, especially for barrel-aged beers for me in a long time, that I've gone back to multiple times and week after week and trying it with different people, that I just love it, where I can keep drinking more than an ounce or two. The complexity keeps pulling me back, but there's so much development in the wood that I just want to keep drinking it. I don't get that palate fatigue that I get with some of the like really big adjuncted stouts.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the first one that we did, and that I really wanted people to kind of see what OIB can do without adjuncts, or entering this as part of the competition.
Okay.
To see how it fares. I mean, this one, we didn't like do pre-sales or anything on it. We didn't hype it up. We didn't do anything like that. We just kind of like, hey, this is here. If you like it, come by and check it out.
Well, that's what it was. When I was, I stopped after work and, pick some stuff up.
Yeah.
So I think I was coming in to grab a Beezer or something. I'm like, wait, what's that in the cooler? Yeah. Oh, add that to, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to kind of drop those once in a while without, a lot of fanfare. Just drop them, see what people think. And this kind of has led us down a path. This specific recipe has led us down a path. So I love stories. So this led us down a different path with Krampus. So this was kind of the first experiment. Krampus that was brewed right after this and put in barrels was the second.
Okay.
I kind of had learned some things, had tasted, the beer before barrel. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tweak a couple things. And then we brewed last year's Krampus to be released this year. This year we're bringing back Chomperado, which was a fan favorite. We took it away last year. We took it away because, it's probably one of my favorite variants that we do. But sometimes you take it away for a year and then you bring it back, and it's exciting again,
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see what the Saigon cinnamon, the 3 different types of chilies, the cocoa nibs we've been using lately, these beautiful organic cocoa nibs from Ghana, and the still, by the way, handmade, hand pureed Madagascar vanilla beans that I make, and see how they all interact with this kind of like new recipe and new barrels.
Yeah.
We got this year's barrels for Krampus is mostly Russell's Reserve single barrel, which is really exciting because I'm a big fan of Russell's Reserve. I'm so excited to see how that expresses on the Krampus this year. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of which, I think that's a great foray into it, of the base of what's going to be Chomperado here. This is the cuvee that Trevor and the guys debarreled this morning, and not carved, but for me, it blew me away an hour ago when I first tried it.
Oh yeah.
And I was convinced there was other types of wine barrels and things in there. For me, the like black cherry, really rich, dark berry notes is just.
Yeah, I definitely get those wine notes from this. I mean, this tastes phenomenal. I can't wait to try this when it's finished.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's the The barrel's expressive. I think because of the lactose not getting in way of the story anymore, I think the barrel's allowed to yell a little bit louder, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The rest of the Krampus series that I saw you post online, now, is that available now, or is it like next week where
November
the pre-sale?
14th, it'll roll live.
All right. Well, when this comes out, it'll be available, so go pick some up.
Right.
But the line looks impressive. What else can people expect in the Krampus series this year?
Yeah, so of course, as always, we're gonna have the OG, which is actually usually our favorite. It's what Krampus was born as. It's a cookie recipe in a beer. So cocoa nibs, vanilla, malts that kind of reflect kind of like all the other ingredients, like brown sugar, and the viscosity maybe from like your eggs from the oats. It was like really, I was like thinking of a cookie recipe when I wrote it. So OG's coming back. It's gonna be really lovely. Then we have our Krampus that is just in the buff again, but this year it's not going to be in the buff. It'll be without adjuncts, but it's going to be 2-year aged, 2 different types of barrels. Okay, so the first year was Willet, and then this last one was Russell's Reserve Single. So a full 2 years age. That's the only one that would still have lactose in it this year, because that was obviously last year's drought.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see what it's done. We just tasted those yesterday, and I'm like beside myself with what an extra year did to Krampus. We've never done that before, so
Yeah.
really, really fun experiment for us. Pirate Krampus, rum barrels. Ask Marty, ask anybody, probably the Half Acre guys too. Rum is a enemy of the brewing world. Rum barrels, you know, they're chewed up and spit up, and I found some that were still in good shape that my guys at Midwest Barrel were holding for me. I was able to fill them. We're debarreling those like right now, today. And that's going to be infused with toasted coconut that I toasted off this morning. Again, those cocoa nibs and vanilla. And so it's kind of like going to be like a coconut rum flavor. And then, of course, you also have your Champurrado Krampus as well. And then another new thing that we're doing this year, because we have such a deep love for collaborating with local breweries, we've developed a really nice relationship with the guys from Gnosis out of Indiana. Earlier this year, we did a beer that was supposed to be both of our barrel-aged beers together. And so, vibing off of that flavor of Rocky Red ice cream, we decided, okay, let's go with the same. They worked well non-barrel-aged. We'll do it barrel-aged now. So we're going for those same flavors. So you can expect some nuttiness, chocolate. You can also expect a little bit of marshmallow in that one. Marshmallow worked out really well for us last year. It was a lot of people's favorite last year. So
Yeah, that was my favorite.
yeah, so we're kind of visiting that a little bit again. So we're taking what has kind of worked for us in the past and implementing it in new ways this year.
Excellent. You've been putting out barrel-aged stuff since, I think, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep raising the bar? Because it seems like every year it gets better and better.
I appreciate that. We try, you know, like I think as you get to know your ingredients, you get to know the barrels. I got to give a huge shout out to Marty from Rev, just in, you know, being able to share information with him. He's kind of like, for me, like the guru of barrels, you know. And I remember first seeing him come into one of our releases. He was sitting at the bar, and I don't get shell shocked often, you know, or get like giddy. But this was my first time being able to like really sit down and talk with him. And now we have like a regular, you know, relationship. But the guy, you know, guys like him doing it better than anyone else is like who I like have to give a lot of credit to, because they've helped guide me a lot.
Yeah, Marty, I mean, I was there a couple months ago talking to him about, you know, their series coming out, and it's just like, I mean, this guy's forgotten more about wood than I'll ever know. Yeah, it's insane.
So, you know, yeah, it's, you know, you always gotta tip the hat to what came before you. Nothing comes from nothing, right? So,
Yeah.
and of course, you know, being right down the road now with our new production facility from the guys who started it all, Goose Island, you know, who always have something barrel aged around, and I get to jam with those guys. That's always amazing, and I've got direct access to those guys, and I've developed really great friendships with them. So, like, literally, like, everyone who does great barrel-aged beer has really helped guide me, you know. Like, and everyone over at Goose Island has been amazing. Sean from Phase 3, we've done collaborations with him, David Zeeble, and more. Like, these are all the heavy hitters. These are the guys you want to be surrounded by, right? And they're all great at what they do, so.
Nobody here seems to be, like, an asshole. Everybody's, like, willing to share information, and it's not cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really part of what makes the industry in Chicago special, and why Fobab is here and what we're doing is because when Trevor learns about these things, people come and ask him about hazies. And for us, I don't think it's ever this aspect of, oh, if we make a hazy, we're afraid of someone else making it better. No, if someone else makes it better, then Trevor gets to keep learning, and then we get to make it better, and then our whole area gets better. It's why Chicago has some of the best beer in the world, is because there has a free flow of ideas. There's brewers that come in on Friday afternoons and just sit and chat and talk, and it's no one keeping secrets, but everyone kind of raising that tide and making things better.
Yeah, everyone seems to help each other, and yeah, it's great for us, great for me, the drinker, that I could come in on any day after work and pick up something that's like world class. It's phenomenal for me, the consumer, and people that listen that are just beer geeks who just want great beer.
It's amazing. I mean, we have so many good breweries, and I think that everlasting, there is also like a silent competition between all of us where we'll have to congratulate each other when each one wins, but we want that win too. You know what I mean? Like, and it's cool. Like, we're doing a collaboration pretty soon here, kind of a mixture of our popular barrel-aged beers with Workforce brand, who makes a phenomenal barrel-aged stuff. So, I mean, it's that kind of camaraderie that gets us all kind of raising the bar all the time.
When you're doing your lineup for Krampus, so you have it in your head for what's going to happen the next year, do you have an idea of what's going to be the Fobab release, or you kind of just play it by ear with how things develop throughout the course of the year?
Yeah, I think when we get excited, I kind of gauge it off of like what we're excited about at the time and what we think is going to be really great. It is tough. It's kind of a guessing game because, I can taste these barrels months out before Fobab, but, they can develop before you get there. With Cursed, at least we knew it was a good barrel-aged beer. We thought this is a good one to put forth. We think it has a real chance. And then it's also something we want to showcase because it's a little bit different than Krampus. Usually we bring two different types of Krampus. This year I really wanted to bring something a little different. And yeah, but I just know Champerato is popular. I know people like it. I'm really excited to see how people react to it now that the recipe's a little bit different too. So yeah.
Well, I also think, especially for you, Champerato, chilies in beer, I've had so many bad beers not done well. And one of the things that I love about your background and expertise is that balance of flavor when you use really big ingredients, even like our Cinnamon Prost. I was tasting out at an event last night, and most people are always just taken aback by how you can balance things. And to me, that is your background of how you have that balance, and where so many breweries and people, they either go way too big or not enough, and to hit that like nice little balance where you get the chili, you get the ancho and guajillo, and you get that little bit of spice, but it doesn't dominate the beer, but it's still there and it's present, is a very fine line.
Yeah, for better or worse, we do try to hit that balance. A lot of people don't want it. Like, a lot of people want to be smacked over the head with the ingredients, but I also like to make drinkable beer. So, it's like, I might not get the highest in tap ratings, but you're not going to be fucking taxed after, a couple of sips.
It's not like, having a hot ones competition when you're drinking beer. No one wants whatever that number 9 or number 10 what is.
Yeah, and I mean, and on top of that, like chilies and stuff like that, it's how you prepare them. Obviously the seeds hold a lot of the capsaicin. And I used to make a mole at Moto back in the day, and I'm using the exact same chilies I used to use in that mole. Okay. And I remember frying them in the whole process. That's when I kind of knew I loved beer, actually, because that low and slow, long-ass process of making mole or making breads or things like that really was like of the same kind of mentality of making beer. There's a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of technique. So that's kind of the tie-in with Champerato. Well, it's kind of beloved.
Yeah, I mean, chilies are so good. When you said, like, if they're done right, like I remember, I think Pipeworks had one years ago, and you didn't know it was chili in there till like the aftertaste. I mean, when you're sipping it, it's like, man, I'm getting wild cherry, I'm getting all of this, and then at the end, you're like, oh, there's the heat, but yeah, when it's so done right, it's so good.
Yeah, it almost adds like, that little bit of burn adds like another dimension to the whole drinking experience. It's really freaking cool. And chili's been, like you said, it can be wild cherry, it can be raisin. There's so many things that chilies can be other than just hot. You know, they can add so much other flavors. So
I actually just opened up 2021 Champerato this past week, and it was still holding up. Like, you still got the spice, you got the cinnamon, everything was still holding up there, and just had a beautiful touch of sweetness. So it was great. I was very impressed that it's still holding up that much with those kind of flavors.
That's good.
The Illinois Craft Brewers Guild does such a great job with Fobab and all of the events like Beer Under Glass. they help to provide brewing scholarships to deserving recipients as well, is all they do for craft breweries and consumers here in the state. Outside of, obviously, the travel cost savings, how do events here in Illinois differ than, going to like a Great American Beer Festival or whatever? Is there more, I don't know, want to say pressure, but since it's a hometown festival, is there more, maybe there's like pressure to produce and do well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big difference is even just who's coming to our events. When we go to Great American Beer Fest, and when we went out to the Great Taste of the Midwest out in Madison, we don't have nearly as many people who know us right off the bat. And so it is really cool because you can put something like a Krampus who's never heard from you before and blow their mind. Here being in Chicago, there's not as many people that are going to Fobab that haven't heard of us. And so it is really kind of cool that we then get to be kind of the hometown advantage. And it does. I think it puts a little pressure on us to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward. I think that's why Cursed, when we all tried it, I think that was one of the reasons that we're submitting it, is like every single person on our brew team was like, this beer is really good. And we're like, okay, it's not the adjuncted, it's not the big crazy, but it showcases the barrels so beautifully, and having that body that it was like, that's what we need to start off with.
So awesome having a guild that has such an amazing event. I mean, I think we have arguably like probably the best guilds in the United States right now. I mean, we're all together as one. Ray over there, he's awesome at kind of lifting us all up, making sure we're involved. Playing the political game, and then to also have such an amazing festival with so many badass breweries from all over the country come together, where you get to taste all these beers, is an amazing experience. And holy hell, is it humbling. I go there thinking I got a pretty good product, and then I will go taste like 5. I'm like,
yeah, I'm done.
You're like, holy shit, these guys are really, really good. So there might be a little bit of an advantage, but I don't know, man. There's just so much good stuff out there where these guys, they're bringing their best of the best, and everyone's getting better every year. It's not just us, so it's really cool.
It is fun to be humbled. We got to do the Rare Beer Fest for a second time this year, and we were put next to Side Project at Bierstadt.
Jeez.
And we're opening up, and we have our Fireside Krampus. It's our highest unrated beer that we've ever had. I'm like, we are gonna blow people's minds. And all of a sudden there's a line of like 30 people for Side Project. And Sim's like calming me down. I'm like, all right, we are not the big dogs here right now.
Not at all.
But it is still beautiful to be invited to those kind of things. And we even had the guys at Rev were sitting drinking Bierstadt looking down at us like, hey, they're down there. What? That's cool.
Well, Old Irving Brewing is not just a barrel-aged brewery. Their hazy IPA Beezer has taken home gold at the Great American Beer Festival and World Beer Cup. The Kolsch Della is a Great American Beer Festival medal recipient, and in my opinion, their Cushy Sour series is among the best around as well. What's next on the horizon for Old Irving?
I think probably right now it's a lot of like growth. We're kind of growing into our new shoes a little bit over at Walnut at our production facility. We're going to start looking at some new formats, finding ways to get beer to the consumers in many different ways, and trying to just maintain quality as high as possible. You've probably noticed more recently some like cool little one-offs. You can always expect those from us. We kind of went on a real kick during October with a lot of different bands. Our final band collab that's coming up is with Front 242.
Okay.
Being the city of industrial music. It's pretty cool to be able to do it with one of the guys who started it in 1984, essentially, with this industrial music. But we get hot on things like that, so you can expect a lot more stuff like that from us. You're probably going to see some more taproom exclusives, some stuff that maybe doesn't go to market. That'll be like more fun and experimental. We've expanded our team, and we've got some real amazing brewers on our team. Cole Homry, Max Sturbance, who was previously with Omega Yeast Labs and Rabid before that. Has great relationships with breweries around the city. Ethan Summer, who joins us from Alarmist, probably one of the hardest working dudes I know, and all these guys come with creative things, and I want to make sure that we cultivate and secure a culture of creativity here at OIB. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, I get to play, I get to have fun, but I also want others to participate and have fun because, you know, Max is always finding new and cool hops I've never freaking heard of. But I'm like, sure, let's buy it. Let's get crazy with it, you know. So I'm excited to see what these guys come up with in 2025 because they're going to be able to spread their wings a little bit more as we focus on larger production at Walnut.
The production facility at Walnut, now you mentioned, Matthew, before we started recording that you've been brewing there for about 5 months now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference or getting like dialed in with the new equipment? Even it might be the same, but every piece of equipment has its own idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, it's just certainly not the same. It's a very different system. So the one we have here is a 2-vessel, 15-barrel system at the pub. That's what we're used to. That's what we know. We know the efficiencies. We know how it works. We know exactly. We've dialed in all of our recipes, and we have a great base. On the new one, you know, we're learning a lot. So, you know, the first brews that came out weren't exactly right. Our yields were low, but we're dialing and trying things. And we actually recently had 2 Beezers, one that came out from the pub that's always very consistent, that tastes great. And then we had a Beezer that came out of Walnut, and we did a blind, and we all actually picked the Walnut Beezer as our favorite. So we're getting really dialed in there. It's, you know, we've never had a mill before. Now we have a mill.
Oh, wow.
So it's like another piece of equipment that kind of throws a little bit of new experience into the mix as well. So yeah, man, we're always learning, and it's pretty cool to see the guys kind of making their tweaks and just really trying to keep things exactly how people imagine them, or maybe even making them better.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, and I think one of the things that you're going to be focusing a lot with me this year is as we grow, we want to make sure that what people have come to expect of Beezer is exactly Beezer.
Exactly.
And that's been such a huge focus. And what we get to do, you know, this past week, luckily everything that was going out to market was like 2 days old this week, and we're like keeping it nice and fresh and for what people want. And I think as we grow, it's that concern of quality to make sure that what people have come to expect of Beezer and Della and Sentinel and Doji is exactly what they're getting. And then we get to play a lot more at the pub. And so it is that, I think, probably like 110% more energy that Trevor's going to really have focus on, making sure when you have 2 different systems, how do you make sure that what people have at the pub is exactly what people are getting out at O'Hare, people are getting at Salt Shed, making sure that that quality is just top notch.
Yeah. And Matthew does our scheduling for all brews because he knows what they need at our distributor's warehouse and kind of what the market needs and everything else like that. He's got a very specific growth in mind. So the freshness is massively important. You overproduce, all of a sudden you got stuff sitting in warehouse. Yeah. Matthew is like, he's a big nerd. Okay. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's a Magic the Gathering guy. He's really good at strategy. And so the way he's able to set up and make sure that, like, you know, we're not getting out of date codes on things like Beezer and our hoppier beers, he stays right on top of that, making sure that the freshest beer possible is going out. So beginning to end, we're going to be dialing everything into the next degree to make sure that everyone's getting the best drinking experience they possibly can from OIB. You know, we've come pretty far in a time when craft beer is maybe a little bit struggling. And I think it's because of, you know, just our dedication to that quality, not putting the cart in front of the horse, you know, and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, everything is just so hyper local now that I'm sure the market's
very
totally different from when you opened in 2016.
Very.
Yeah.
Very. So
not only is the beer here at Old Irving world class, their food is just as good. The front of house staff is great. I'm still pissed I missed out on the Reuben egg roll weekend. I saw that. I'm like, wait, I'm not going to be in town this week. Who deserves the credit for all of the amazing food that you guys have here?
Chef Alex, he is awesome. He used to be our sous chef when we, like years ago. And our executive chef at the time had left, and we weren't sure if we were going to reach out or what was going to go on. And I've just watched this man grow and evolve, and he gets more and more creative every week. Runs a tight kitchen, massively consistent food. I'd have to say that the credit really goes to him. And, you know, obviously, like, me and Jeff have to always give like the final stamp of approval here as owners, but like, it's just a fun game. I mean, like, what's final stamp? We get to taste his awesome food every week before it goes on the menu. He's able to make the burger of the week, a wing of the week, plus specials on the weekend, plus an already pretty big, like, regular menu, not to mention neck of the month and he's always thinking about the next thing. So, like I said, cultivating a culture of creativity here that extends to all branches, whether that's the brewers, the bartenders, the chefs. We want to make sure that everyone's being heard there. Then, just treating people with respect and dignity and making sure that everyone's cool.
Yeah, because everyone here is cool.
people.
I mean, one of my favorite things about a chef is he's always asking what kind of food competitions are out there because he loves being creative.
He wants to compete.
Yeah. And so you guys just went to Solemn Oath's Burger Challenge.
Oh, yeah.
We did the burger battle.
Tell him a little bit about that. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. We actually collaborated on that one, on that specific burger thing. We kind of like bounced some ideas back and forth, and then me, him, and another cook from our kitchen threw down at Solemn Oath. We were invited by our friend Charlotte, who I'm guessing who works with Solemn Oath now, is kind of their director of ops. But she, we went out and we were against like the best burger makers out there, and somehow, some way, the People's Choice decided we were worthy, and we got the very cool Solemn Oath wrestling belt.
Oh yeah,
and Chef was super proud, and he should be. I mean, he makes great stuff. He pours over his food. He puts a lot of passion to it.
and you always seem to post it on social media when I'm going on lunch at work and they're having like PBJ. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I need to go there after work.
I believe they call that a thirst trap.
Yeah.
We're a thirst trap brewery.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Well, guys, I thank you so much. Once again, if you're at Fobab, you got to pick up Cursed. I'm sipping this right now. It's excellent. Guys, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll see you next week at Fobab.
Hell yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it.
And just one last addition to Fobab, we're also co-sponsoring the Lager Lounge. Right.
Oh, awesome.
So at Fobab, if you need a little reprieve from all of the big barrel-aged stouts, we'll have Doji, our West Coast Pilsner.
Which is great, too.
Yeah, it's one of my personal favorites, and we just thought that's going to be a perfect beer that's a little bit lower ABV and just helps your palate out a little bit after drinking all those stouts.
Yeah, that was a nice welcome change last year. Going up there, I'm like, it's still going to be upstairs this year? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, definitely pick up the Doji. The Doji is really good. That's part of the year-round now?
It is.
Okay.
Yep, that's one of our core now.
All right, excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much. I know you're busy debarreling, so let me let you get back to work.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
We'll see you guys at Fobab.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Solemn Oath Brewery has been putting out great beer since 2012. Their original location in Naperville is at 1661 Quincy Avenue, and their Chicago Still Life location is at 2919 West Armitage. They've been collecting Fobab hardware since 2012 and took home the Best in Show last year at Fobab for Hayden Hand's Oaked Val d'Or in the Wild Beer Brett category. Joining me now is John Barley, the president of Solemn Oath. Mr. Barley, thank you so much for talking today.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate you having us.
How do you top Best in Show, John? You set the bar pretty high last year.
Yeah, it's always an honor, especially with the quality of the beers and the uniqueness of the beers that come to Fobab every year, to take home a medal like that. Certainly something we hope for and dream about, but we know how difficult it is to make its way through that. So, as far as topping that, I don't know that we can. We can only hope to match it again and keep, more importantly, keep Chicago and keep Chicagoland represented with Best in Show. We like that aspect of it as well.
Absolutely. Now, you also won a Great American Beer Festival medal for your Kolsch Lou back in 2016. Is winning a medal in a competition like either GABF or Fobab, is it like a blessing or almost a curse? Like, how are you going to top it?
No, it's always an honor to be, the rigorous standards that a lot of these judging competitions go through, and the qualities of the beers that we're up against from all over the world. It's always quite an honor. It's also a validation. I remember friends of mine that were brewers also earlier on in my career, when we would win a medal, it was always taught to me that the medals aren't for us as much as it may seem like that. It's validation for the fans that we have and the people that come to our breweries all the time and the people that buy our beers off the shelves. It's validation for them, the ones that support us every single day, that they're making the right decision to support and keep something, whether it be local or just a world-class beer that's available to them. And that's always a privilege that we don't take lightly. So I like that kind of ethos, and we try to carry that forward, and it's an honor to be kind of under a spotlight, by and chosen by some fellow brewers that do some of the judging and you know, some of the best palates on the planet. And you know, for us, it's just a really cool opportunity to be able to share that with our supporting group.
What are you going to be serving for like people like myself that are in attendance at Fobab this year?
So we've got some different entries that are going in that I can't name specifically, but you know, some familiar. But you know, one of the beers that we're really excited about is a part of the Lager Lounge, which is a collaboration that we're doing, a lager collaboration that we're releasing. I think we're packaging on Friday of this week, so we're just gearing up in time for next week. It's a collaboration we're working on with Relish, which is an independent clothing brand here in Chicago, and that's called Good Old Green Leaf of Death. And we're doing a unique approach to a lager with a little bit more of a modern hop profile, and that'll be available in the Lager Lounge, which is also, you know, an awesome opportunity for anyone that is attending to give their palates a break from the bourbon barrel aged wash and the barley wines and the big beers, and take a break with something kind of light and crispy. So, you know, we're excited to share that with everybody as well.
I'm looking forward to trying that. Yeah, I loved the Lager Lounge last year because, after a while, it's like, I got to cleanse this palate a bit.
Yeah. Charlotte Converse is a big part of that. She's a part of the crew here at Solemn Oath, and she volunteers her time to go over there and help run that every single year. So, you know, it's something that's near and dear to us, and you know, it's really a cool experience for the people to come in and just do something different other than the barrel aged beers too, and highlight a lot of fresh lagers that are awesome and local, or from people coming in from outside.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool last year. I wasn't sure like what the crowd would be like up there, but it was packed a couple times I ran up there. At first, you weren't sure. Like, I figured out maybe everyone's just going to make sure they could hit all the breweries they want to go to and sample the barrel aged stuff. But no, that Lager Lounge was packed last year.
Yeah, you know, I think the Guild always does amazing ways to keep this entire event fresh and keep everybody engaged, and you know, again, spotlight local beer and beer from that we're able to attract with this event from all over the world, and you know, it's just another level of experience for patrons to come in and do something different.
I would think that an event like a barrel aged event, it's different than your typical awards competition. When you're planning ahead for an event like Fobab, is that more of a long game where yourself, the team over at Solemn Oath, you kind of have to see how the batches develop over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we might have barrel aged projects that we're excited about for this competition that aren't ready on the timeline of when we're able to bring it in, right? So, you know, through our process, and, you know, we've got barrel aged projects going year round all the time. We have a group for us at Solemn Oath called the Old Order and the New Order, which is like our barrel aged beer society for our group, for Naperville and for Chicago locations. And, you know, so we've got projects that we're dropping nonstop throughout the year. So we're tasting barrels, you know, every few weeks. We're pulling nails and tasting barrels, and we've got projects that we think are ready, or we need to get into package, or we need another 6 months on, and just kind of go from there. But, you know, absolutely, we continue to design beers that are specific. We are receiving a fresh batch of barrels today. We've got 15 bourbon and combination of bourbon and rye barrels that are coming in today, that are just a big Russian Imperial Stout that we brewed specifically for barrel aging, that you know, will be part of some of the blends, call it at the earliest this time next year, right? Not necessarily into even individual beers, although we do design individual beers for barrel aging, but we'll also have some different things going, or you know, we have the same beer, for example, for this project going into 3 different kinds of bourbon barrels, 2 different kinds of rye barrels, a couple of little specialty ones that we wanted to mess with and see what happens with those 2. And, you know, we'll blend some of them together, blend different bourbons that we like to create a profile overall for a beer that we really dig and are into. So, yeah, I mean, we're constantly planning, constantly experimenting and trying new elements, trying to recapture some magic that we loved from previous beers that we've either done straight up or blended. But, this whole process and the barrel aging process is a unique one for us as brewers. These are a lot more time prohibitive and very, very specialized and patience. And, that's what makes something like Fobab so exciting, because these are some of the best beers from some of the most talented people chosen by these, top brewers from all over the world. And it comes right here into Chicago. And, that's just a really cool element of it. This is the best of their best and the ones that they're extremely excited about, not just the fresh beers that we make on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, it was so amazing just tasting so many different types of beers. I remember last year, I forget the brewery, so please, I apologize to them, but they had a barrel-aged pickle beer that I was a little apprehensive, but that was actually quite good. And tasting beers with the different woods involved, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, no, one thing I like about Fobab too, especially, you kind of even asked from a planning standpoint for us as brewers, but, for planning as patrons or as people attending, they're trying to wrap their heads around it. One thing I really like about Fobab is, given the fact that, some people just maybe aren't that into beers, or they're not into IPAs, or they're not into lagers or anything like that. Like the profiles of the beers that come through with different wine barrel-aged elements, with bourbon barrel-aged elements, this is a pretty it's a little intimidating, I think, for less savvy craft beer people. But, if you were going to bring someone that is primarily a wine drinker to a beer event, like this is the one, because, they're going to have a lot of familiar flavor profiles from, French oak and, Cabernet barrel-aged Russian imperial stouts, as opposed to, like, here's the freshest hop that tastes like a different kind of nectarine, right? Yeah. Like, I think this is, while it's intimidating at its face, this is also a great event for novices to the craft beer community.
When you're coming up with a recipe, is it different when you're doing something for, like, say, a barrel-aged stout as opposed to a non-barrel age, where you're developing a recipe that maybe the wood is doing more of the heavy lifting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we design beers specifically with some sort of time frame, a lot of time in mind, but we'll also design, a larger high ABV base stout that's designed to be blended with other more exotic woods or something like that, so that there's a base of reliability that doesn't push it too far one way or the other. But absolutely, we definitely take that into mind. For example, especially in like in a world with a lot of adjuncts when it comes to stouts, in the last 3 and 5 years have really shown us, like a lot of those kind of elements. We'll design a beer a specific way to maybe add a fresh adjunct to it at the end prior to package after it's sat for 2 years, right? Like, we're not taking coffee and flushing it into a barrel and let that oxidize for 2 years. There's different process pieces and different elements to it that we are designing specifically for that barrel-aged experience. Absolutely.
Now, I've noticed, and maybe it's just my perception, but maybe 7, 8 years ago, there were more adjuncts, where now I think a lot of the releases are just showcasing the different woods. Is that something that you see as well?
You see a lot, with the barrel-aged stuff. Yes, you do see a lot more blending, a lot more breweries blending and getting into the art of blending, which is a skill in and of itself. I do think stouts in general, you still see a lot of adjuncted elements to it, from the pastry stout universe, and I think some of that bleeds into barrel-aged beers too. But I think there's just a cycle to all of it, and I think even with us winning Best in Show last year for Val d'Or, like, not that we didn't think it was a world-class beer, but you talk to any customer or you talk to any brewer, and the Wild and Brett beer, surge was 10 years ago, right? Like, and here we are at the most prestigious barrel-aged beer festival in the world, winning Best in Show with a Brett beer, right? And I think some things just hit at the right moment, and they're packaged at the right time, and for competition, everything pushing in the right direction. It's a lot of it's a timing thing, and the palates of the judges that have been selected that have that are chosen to do the highest level of it. And I think I just think there's a time arc to it, and people are going to keep pushing innovation, but a lot of the barrel aged elements are a lot of the skill sets that we're really trying to shine through with a festival like this are skills that are hundreds of years old, very European inspired pieces, especially with the wild beers that have been coming through for generations. So I think turning new people on to new things, there's always going to be a time for that. But it's just exciting to see an eclectic group of beers all in one place from hundreds of breweries from all over the world. I just think it's a cool experience to have here in our city.
Now, you're more than just a barrel-aged brewery at Solemn Oath. As I mentioned, Lou is one of your beers. You also have a popular seltzer under the City Water brand. Hidden Hand continues to just knock it out of the park, including two of my favorites, New Rose. Whoever came up with the beer named after the damned, please give my sincere thank you to. The 77's another one that I usually grab all the time. The team there, they need to be commended. They keep putting out great beer after great beer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we pride ourselves, especially being within this industry. It's always a question. People often ask me when I'll meet them for the first time or something like that, like, what's your favorite beer? What's your favorite brewery? I really drink even when I'm traveling or when I'm looking around, and our group is a really good example of this. Like, making great beer is about having great process and having standards and rigorous standards of what we do to make high quality beer. Beyond that, personal style preference, right? Like, if I know a brewery that I'm going to visit, if I know their processes are clean, then make world-class beers, which beer I'm going to have from them is really just a personal choice. And, that's how we like to approach it at Solemn Oath. We should be able to make every single beer that ever reaches your hands at a world-class level. That's the standard that we set. And, our team knocks it out of the park with that. And, we continue to fight that and continue to push for that level of success every single day, which is, really is, the pressure we put on ourselves to keep that standard.
Like I said, everyone that I've had has been fantastic. So, but another beer that I loved, you put out earlier this year in the spring, was a project called Vibes Since 1920, which was brewed for International Women's Day. How did that project come about?
That is spearheaded by Charlotte Converse, the one I mentioned that she's our director of hospitality and operations here at Solemn. And she spearheaded that project as something that she wanted to get behind, started talking about it last year at one point. And then, we're actually getting geared up for the next phase of that. They're gearing to brew that in December for a February release. They're going to be doing a lager this year. More details on that to come. But Charlotte, wanted to create an opportunity for women and some other underrepresented groups in the brewing community and the hospitality community to have a chance to come in, to learn from each other, to feel the support and understand some different aspects of the industry. Maybe something that, part of that project is like people that work at bars and restaurants and with the hospitality front. They might not have had experience or be exposed to beer operations and how we make beer or something like that, even though they're a key component to this with them selling it on the front lines every day. And, with her, she just really works hard and does an excellent job at creating this community that creates an opportunity for some people to learn from each other. And that's really, how I view what it's about. And, we're excited for the next phase of it coming in Q1 of 2025.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember reading about it on your website and just had like an all-star cast of people that were involved in the project. And I'm glad to see this is going to be an annual thing. So that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Hundreds of brewers and hundreds of different restaurant groups, and it's just so cool. And we, also amazing is, with our supply chain, like every single supplier that we have, from hops to, BSG is a part of it every year. We've got Haas has been a part of it. It's, Hopsteiner, all these groups that support us and that we work with in partnership, making quality beer products every day. It didn't take a second request. Everybody jumped at this opportunity to support something as cool and unique as what Charlotte and the Vibes Project has been building, and a lot more to come. And I'll let the people that are running that aspect of it break the news on what the 2025 plan is, but some cool stuff are in the works. I can tell you that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. So so next spring, check out Vibes since 1920. That's a great beer.
Next one is going to be called Vibes from the Heartland.
Vibes from the Heartland. All right, very good. Very good. I can mention in the intro that you have 2 locations in Illinois. The original one that's in Naperville, and the newer one that opened up a couple years ago on Armitage here in the city. How are the 2 different from each other?
Yeah, it's been amazing to have, being a suburban brewery, a suburban-based brewery, to bridge into the city with, an experience and an authentic voice of what we've been able to do. In Naperville, it's very much, we have a large production facility, 30,000 square feet, and, large vats everywhere. And, we opened up in 2012. So it feels and looks like very much of that era, like a small bar tapped into a concrete box, right? Like just packed into the corner of it. And in Chicago, we've got a much more unique experience. It's more of like a dive bar with some European influence. We've got an amazing staff at both locations, but for our Chicago, our Logan Square location, it's a lot softer. It's a lot. It's more of a neighborhood spot, which we take a lot of pride in as well. And I think we're always so confident with the tap rooms that if people come in, check us out, that they're going to become fans and supporters of Solemn Oath and Nid and that rings true with both of our locations. They got different drinking habits. The suburbs are much more IPA focused, and I can tell you that any lager that we tap in the city is the one that's going to go first, second, and third. So it's that part of it's been pretty interesting to figure out and navigate with our fresh beers and how we want to approach stuff. But we're always looking for just a cool experience and doing something different and bringing people beer in a very Solemn Oath way. And both of our locations knock it out of the park with that. More importantly, the people that are handing you the beer over the bar. I always joke that we can teach people to make beer, we can teach people to sell beer, but I can't teach people how not to be a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Well, the quality of the people is what we put, what we put right alongside the quality of the beer, and that's really what brings it to life is the people that are there experiencing it and presenting it to you. So, I'm proud of the team that we have at both locations, and we just keep growing, keep going, and keep creating new beer experiences for people, because one element I really love about just our industry in general is the fact that we go through, whether it be you're working marketing or you're working in the front of house or you're working on the back end making a beer or you're helping on the pack line or our distributors and our drivers and our wholesaler and all that sort of thing. And, all of us at the end of the day, we have this like tangible thing that no matter what area of the building you're working in, it's like a physical product. And we all have our unique ways that we could screw it up along the way. If somebody does it, we can brew a perfect beer, we can sell her a perfect beer. And if packaging goes wild or packaging has a rough day, we now have a way that we mess it up. Everybody's got their own opportunity along that path. But, at the end of the day, when we can hand someone a beer across a bar or reach someone at a grocery store shelf, we make a product that people celebrate awesome things in their lives with, or put their feet up after a hard day and take a moment to themselves, give themselves a break. We don't take that responsibility lightly. And, how we make our beers, how we approach our people in our own spaces. We're looking through that lens of trying to engage with that person and either help them celebrate or help them get through what they're getting through. And that's our job in all of this. And I like to think that our team takes that approach as well.
I'll be at the city location probably in about an hour after we hang up here. I just missed going to the Naperville one. I know last year I stopped over at Go Brewing to talk to Joe there. And this was like late in the afternoon. And I'm just thinking, rush hour driving back from Naperville is going to be rough. But one of these days I'll have to make it back out there and check out the Naperville location on Quincy.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the Logan Square area, or if you're ever at our city location, if you time it right, it's 45 minutes. So it's not far.
Got it. Well, this was a little longer. Coming back was like 2 hours. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't stop, or maybe I should have, just to waste a little time so I'm not stuck in Naperville traffic.
Yeah. For those listening, that is not the time frame on the weekends. Okay. Yeah. Pop out a lot easier on the weekends and come hang out and hit a couple of breweries in the area.
Yeah, this was a Friday afternoon. It was poor planning on my part. Yeah. All right. Once again, you got to check out Solemn Oath. They have 2 locations in Naperville. It's at 1661 Quincy Avenue. The Chicago location is at 2919 West Armitage. John, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I'm looking forward to popping over to the city location in a little bit, and I will see you in a couple of weeks at Fobab.
All right. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing everyone at Fobab and appreciate the time, and thank you for having us.
All right. Thanks again, John. Take care. All right, the beer that I'm going to have right now comes from Old Irving. This was the Doji that we were talking about during the interview. This is a West Coast Pilsner, 5.7% alcohol. They use Citra Amarillo and Citra hops. I'm a huge fan of this. I've had this before. I think I even did a video on this, but I'm a big fan of Doji, so let's crack it open. Doji's a really nice, light, pale color. Good couple fingers of foam here. Smells great. You get all that big floral hop aroma here. I don't know if I'm getting fruitiness, but to me, like, the aroma's hitting me is more floral, but I really do think it smells great. And that's just so good. It's like the best of everything. So if you like a nice, crispy lager, this is a Pilsner. It's got a nice, clean finish to it, but those hops hit you right up front. So if you're a fan of Citra Amarillo and Citra, you're going to like this. So I really do think this is the best of both worlds. Crushable beer. I'm a huge fan of Doji. They mentioned on the interview that this is a year-round, so you could pick this up everywhere. You could pick it up at the brewery, or I'm not sure about the grocery stores. I think the only things that I've seen at, like, my grocery stores at least have been the Beezer and maybe some of the Cushy Sour, but I'm sure you could pick this up at your Binny's, your bottle shops. But Doji's a great beer. So if you see this West Coast Pilsner, Doji from Old Irving Brewing, put this one in the carts. All right, the beer that I'm going to have now is from Hidden Hand. This is their Meadowlark. This is a Foeder-aged pale lager. They use Pacific Northwest hops here. According to the can, it has a soft oak reminder that everything is better with the pale lager. So who am I to argue with that? This is going to clock in at 4.7% alcohol. Let's crack open Meadowlark. Meadowlark has a nice, beautiful color here. Good couple fingers of foam, good creamy look to this here. I like the aroma a lot. I mean, it just smells fantastic. You get everything out of this aroma. It smells phenomenal. That's delicious. That is so good. The Foeder aging, you get really slight barrel wood notes to this. I think it really adds well to this beer. I mean, it just tastes delicious. Really good finish to this. The hops are there. You get a little of the hops at the end. I mean, this is just spectacular. This is a phenomenal beer. Yeah, there's nothing I could find wrong with this. This is just absolutely spectacular. If you're in the Chicagoland area and you see Meadowlark around you, you need to pick this one up, put it in the cart. I don't know if you're in the Naperville area or Chicago and you're in the tap rooms, you can get it there. Or hopefully you could find this at, reputable bottle shops around the area. But this is so good. I need to just shut up and have a couple more sips, so stand by. Yeah, that's really good. Like, you get those wood notes in there. You get the hop notes. You definitely get some of the malt there, but nothing is overpowering. It all is like perfectly balanced. This is just an absolutely outstanding beer. If you see Meadowlark around you, you got to put it in the cart. Beautiful artwork on the can. Nice black can with a yellow gold bird on here. It's phenomenal. Put it in the cart. Run, don't walk. Just go grab you some Meadowlark. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening, and I want to thank once again the gentlemen over at Old Irving and Solemn Oath for talking about Fobab. If you're going to be there on Saturday, look for me. I will be there, and I hope to see you then. Next week is Thanksgiving, so I won't have a show until then, until the day afterwards. So I hope you and yours have a great Thanksgiving. If you want to hear the stuffing story, stay tuned at the end of this. Have a great week, have a great holiday, and remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. All right, so here's my annual stuffing story. So my parents were divorced. Some years I went to my dad's side of the family. Some years I went to my mom's. But when I was at my mother's side of the family, my grandmother, when she cooked every year, without fail. And now you know where I get this foul mouth from. My grandmother is making the turkey and the stuffing and everything else. Without fail, every year, my grandmother, oh, the fucking stuffing's too dry. And it never was. The stuffing was never dry. It was always great. Even if it was, I don't think it was stovetop, but it was whatever came from Dominic's, which was the grocery store we went to as a family. But the stuffing was never dry. It was always great. And every year it would be like, Nana, the stuffing's fine. It's perfect. Oh, the fucking stuffing's too dry. So after a couple years, we're going to bust balls. So, my grandmother's asking how everything was. Oh, the fucking stuffing's too dry, Nana. And then she'd get even more pissed. So whatever you're doing for Thanksgiving, I hope your stuffing is nice and moist.